now.
श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे। उन्मत्तनटनताण्डवं मत्ते भवदनभासुरं चित्ताब्जबोधभास्करम् आयत्तयोगराजितं विद्वेषनित्यपूजितम् उत्तानपाणिमुद्रितं श्रीकृत्तिवाससुतं कैलासदृशदिनर्तनं भक्तान्तरङ्गवर्तनं पापौघपाशकर्तनं श्रीपार्वतीसुतं भजे। श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे। लम्बोदराङ्गताण्डवं मुद्राकराब्जपण्डितं सर्वाङ्गनागमण्डनं वन्दे विनायकं पतिम्। धिं धिम्मितकिटमर्दलं भं भं निनादशङ्खकम् आनन्दनृत्यतत्परं ध्यायामि प्रमथनायकम्। आमोदकरमोदकं वेदान्तमतिमादकं दुष्कर्मफलसाधकं विघ्नेश्वरं गुरुं भजे। श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे। सृष्टिस्थितिलयकारणं मोक्षाख्यदैत्यमारणं संसारजलधितारणं स्तौमि प्रभो नरवारणं। पञ्चास्यमादिदैवतं देवऋषिभिः समर्चितम् आलोकगलितसञ्चितं विघ्नाधिनाथमाश्रये। श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे। लोकैकपरमवैभवं लोकेश्वरादिसम्भवम् आलोकपरिहृतोद्भवम् आलोकये परं भवम्। श्रीकृष्णकविनिवेदितैः श्लोकाख्यमोदकैरिमैः आनन्दगणपतिं पतिम् आराधयन्तु साधकाः। श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे, 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 श्रीदत्तगणपतिं भजे।
ॐ परब्रह्मसमारम्भाम् श्रीदत्तात्रेयमध्यमाम् Shri Datta Swami Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Sarva Vishwanyasta Pada Padmayate Vamahastalola Vedashastrayate Jnanasurayate Dattarupayate Shri Venugopala Krishnaya Vandanam Shri Venugopala Krishnaya Vandanam Shri Venugopala Krishnaya Vandanam Guru Datta Shri Datta Prabhu Datta Pahi Mam Vidhi Datta Hari Datta Hara Datta Raksha Mam Pahi Mam Datta Raksha Mam Datta.
Pada Namaskaram Swamiji.
Namaste.
With salutations at the lotus feet of Shri Datta Swami, let us begin the Satsang with the reading of question answers. I offer this dedication at the lotus feet of Swamiji. From you alone is all knowledge sublime, and everything that's great and fine. All the ignorance and error are but mine. For I am just a soul, and you, the goal divine. Trusting your compassion benign, my errant service I yet consign to those holy lotus feet of thine, Shri Datta Swami, my Sadguru trine. We begin with the questions dated March 21st, 2026. The first question is by Srimati Chanda. The question is, if pravritti is full of selfishness, then how can there be justice? So she asks in detail, Pada Namaskaram to my Almighty. Request you to kindly enlighten me on the following doubts. In one of our regular Satsangas, you told, pravritti is full of selfishness. Most of the time we experience this. We also learned from your knowledge that pravritti is the justified life, meaning justice has to be followed among the souls. If it is full of selfishness, then how can there be justice? At the same time, God likes this justice very much, and he comes to establish this only in this world. These statements seem to contradict. Limits need to be clarified in all these, is it not? Swami replied, selfishness and justice can coexist, provided the selfishness is within certain permitted limits of justice. Dushpravritti means earning wealth through unjust ways, even though God always grants to every soul the necessary wealth to meet the basic needs. Dushpravritti also includes illegal sexual life before and after marriage. Pravritti means earning money in a justified way for the sake of the expenses of oneself and one's family. Pravritti includes confining to the legally wedded spouse for satisfying lust. Although pravritti is also full of selfishness, justice is not violated anywhere at any time. Justice shall be violated only if God competes with it in the context of testing the devotee, and not whenever the devotee desires such a context. So here Swami is explaining the boundaries of justice. Justice includes self-centered activity. See, we are self-centered, all of us are self-centered, meaning selfish. The self is the goal. Pleasing the self is the goal. Such a person for whom the self is the goal is a self-centered person. Now, such a person wants material things for himself or herself. The desire to get different things for oneself and one's family, because the family is kind of treated like an extension of oneself. So, getting different material things which can be purchased with money for oneself is lobha, that is greed. It is not called greed when it is within limits, when it is only meant for satisfying the basic needs, then we usually don't call it greed. But that desire for material acquisition, to acquire material things, there is no need to find fault with it as long as it is within limits. What are the limits? God has decided those limits. The limits are that you should not grab anyone else's rightful share. The material things in the world are meant not only for your own enjoyment, your own consumption, but also the enjoyment and consumption of other souls. By other souls, we include not only human beings, but even animals. They also have the right to live. So, if you are grabbing more than your rightful share, you have crossed the boundary given by God. So, Pravritti Dharma lays out rules that we should follow so that we do not end up violating those boundaries, violating those limits set by God. And those limits are sometimes hard for us to define. So God has given the rules. Under these circumstances, this is what you are supposed to do. If you do something extra, that is not valid. That is not permissible. So based on these rules for selfish, materialistic life, these two paths of dushpravritti and pravritti exist. The person who consumes material things, acquires material things for oneself without paying heed to God's God-given rules of justice, such a person is committing injustice. And such a person is said to be in dushpravritti. The person who consumes material things, all the things that money can buy, but stays within the limits prescribed by God, such a person is a follower of pravritti. So just as we have acquisition of material things, so also is the desire for sex. That is kama. Dharma, very broadly, can be summarized by these three human endeavors, or rather by the three ways in which we end up violating dharma. That is why Lord Krishna says, Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanamaatmanah. So one is kama, another is krodha, and the third is lobha. So these three are the ways in which we end up crossing those limits set by God. In the context of kama, you have the permission of God to satisfy your lust with your legally wedded spouse. Other than that, any sexual relationship is not legitimate. So that is the rule for kama. As regards krodha or himsa, which is violence, one should not harm any good living being, any harmless living being. If the other living being is of a criminal nature, of a cruel nature, then to protect yourself, you may have to harm that person. And that is not against dharma. In fact, that is required by dharma. So your anger or your violence against a good living being is not permitted by God. Against bad living beings and wicked people, it is not only permitted, but it is recommended. Then when you come to lobha, just as I explained, the material acquisition, you can acquire material things, you can earn wealth, you can even save your wealth, as long as you do not take anybody's rightful share. So these are the boundaries prescribed by God. You have to stay within the boundaries. You can continue to be self-centered, but as long as you stay within these boundaries, you are on the path of pravrutti. The moment you cross one or more of these boundaries, either in the context of kama or krodha or himsa, and the third one is lobha. When you cross those boundaries, you have crossed or you have slipped down from the path of pravrutti into dushpravrutti. So you are not supposed to violate pravrutti at any time. There's only one situation in which you can violate the rules of pravrutti. And that is when God requires you to violate those rules. They are an important test for spiritual life, where you demonstrate that you have clearly understood that God is the giver of dharma, God is the Lord of dharma, and so He is more important than the rules of dharma. In fact, whatever violation He is asking you to do for His sake is actually not a violation, but to our limited brain, it appears like a violation. So is it possible to be self-centered and stay within dharma? Yes, very much. That is what pravrutti dharma is, a self-centered life, but it is a self-centered life that respects the rules of justice and the justice as defined by God. I find myself repeating this many times, that justice as defined by God, because many people, they define justice the way they want, and they say that we are following justice. That is not correct. What God has decided as justice, that we should follow that. The next question: are angels who follow justice selfish? The angels are known to follow justice, then are they also selfish? Because the followers of justice in the pravrutti path, the followers of justice are supposed to be selfish, self-centered. A detailed question: angels also always do and teach the right things. They are also perfect in pravrutti. Then can I say that they are also selfish? At the same time, you always say that angels never err. To err means to make mistakes, to make errors. So at the same time, you say that angels never err, they never make mistakes. How is this statement possible? Only God can never err, is it not? And angels definitely are not God, and they are bound to err. We have plenty of such stories. In the Puranas, we have many stories which describe how even great angels, they've made some mistakes. So we have plenty such stories. Please clear this confusion too. Swami replied, compared to human beings, it is said that angels do not err. It is only in a relative sense. In the absolute sense, only God will never err. And many people I have found that they point to some story in the Puranas, and they say that look at Indra, look at this such and such an angel. See, they also made so many mistakes. So why are they supposed to be greater than us? They are just like us. But here I think we have to understand where we actually stand. Such a notion is the result of lack of introspection. We have not analyzed ourselves clearly. The number of errors that angels make in their entire life, more number of errors we make in just 1 hour in our life. We are prone to error. In fact, it is a surprise if we do not make an error. We usually make errors because we have a mixed nature. the human nature is of a mixed quality, partially good, partially bad. Angels are fully good. They might not be the best. The best is God. Best is God alone. Perfect. God is an embodiment of perfection. Angels are not embodiments of perfection. But they are, from our point of view, they are very close to perfection. Whereas we are a 50-50. We are 50% black, 50% white. And each person actually could be different. The proportions of goodness and badness in different people varies. But if you take an average, human beings are mixed. And then you have the demons who are mostly wrong, mostly bad. So to say that the angels, whatever they behaved, sometimes they acted out of ignorance. Very rare occasions when they act out of ignorance, when they act out of ego or desire, that we hold that against them and say that they are not anything better than us. No, it is not like that. We have not observed ourselves properly. In fact, all the people around us, they know our nature very well. They understand all our defects. Whenever we make mistakes 10 times a day, they notice it. It is only we who do not notice. We think that we are embodiments of perfection, and we feel that we are entitled to even pass judgment on devatas like Lord Indra and Yama and all these people. We are not entitled to do that. We are nothing in front of them. In fact, we are because of they are divine executives. They are in God's government, God's divine government. They hold very high positions, and whatever the fruits of our deeds and all the benefits and boons God passes to humanity, they are passed through their hands. So one should recognize the difference between us and them. So they are not embodiments of perfection, but they are much better than us. Next one. How can devotion become free of the color of any worldly bond? Now, this question is related to the analysis of different types of bonds in the context of Madhura Bhakti. Madhura Bhakti is romantic devotion to God, where the devotion of the devotee has the nature or has the color of romance. So the question is whether that romantic color to devotion should exist or should it not exist. And different people love God in different ways. For example, one person may love God as his father. Another person may love God as his or her brother. Someone loves God as a friend. Someone loves God as a romantic partner, like a husband or a lover, and so on. So in that love for God, the devotee's love for God is common in all these cases. Each of these devotees loves God, but the nature of their love is different. The color of that love is different. So the husband-wife kind of love has a certain color. Color indicates the nature of that bond. Sudama loved Krishna as a friend. So his relation with Krishna had the color of friendship. The Gopikas loved Krishna as a lover. So they had the color to their devotion was a romantic color, and so on. So this is the context. So the detailed question of Chandaji is as follows. The color of the bond with God is white, not any color of the spectrum. That is Vibgyor. Vibgyor means violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. That's the spectrum, the rainbow colors. So what she's saying is that the bond with God is white, and it is not any specific color of the spectrum. So Swamiji had explained this point earlier, saying that you may love God as a friend or as a lover or as a husband or whatever. There, the color of that relation, color of that human relationship is superimposed on your love for God. Whereas what Swamiji is saying is, so that is not the ideal case. In the ideal case, the bond with God is an independent bond. It should not be like your relation with your father or like your relationship with your husband or something. The bond between the devotee and God should have its own color, and that color is white. So in that context, Chandaji is asking that the color of the bond with God is white and not any other color of the spectrum. She's saying white is nothing but a mixture of other colors. But you are saying that there is no separate existence of any individual color in that bond with God. It is a wonderful concept. In my view, once the white color has come into a devotee's life, only then will the Vibgyor cease to exist. So when the white color has come into a devotee's life means when the devotee develops such a kind of love for God, which has its own nature as God and devotee. That is the nature of the bond. When the nature of that bond becomes a God-devotee relationship, then that individual human bond-like love ceases. Meaning, let's say one devotee loves God as the Father. So his love for God is colored with the Father color. The day when this devotee recognizes the divinity of God truly, the bond changes to a white color. What is the meaning of white color? Now he sees God as God and himself as a devotee. Earlier, he used to think of God as the Father and himself as the Son. So that color, let us say that is the yellow color. Earlier, his love for God had a yellow color. It was the father-son relationship. Now, upon realizing the divinity of God fully, the color of his love has changed from yellow to white. Now he doesn't consider God to be merely the Father. You think Father is something very great. Actually, Father is nothing compared to God. So he recognizes that God is much, much, much greater than the Father. And therefore, he changes the nature of the bond. From yellow, it becomes white. So what Chandaji is saying is that once the white color has come into a devotee's life, only once, only when the white color comes into the devotee's life will the Vibgyor, the different colors, cease to exist. Then she is asking, but it can never be in any colorless state, is it not? Colorless means devoid of any color. White white embodies all colors. White includes all colors. But the colorless state is a state of no color, no sort of bond with God. So she is asking to Swami, please comment on this. Can I say that science fails to explain the life of such devotees? Swami replied, the love towards God, which is the white color, is also a bond. So the bond is indicated by some color. So the love for God is also a bond, meaning it has its own color. The absence of love is not a bond. Absence of love is like colorlessness. So when there is colorlessness, it represents a condition where there is no bond with God. So the love towards God is also a bond. The love towards God is represented by the white color. And the absence of love, represented by the colorless state, is a state where there is no bond. The different colors of the spectrum, that is Vibgyor, represent different worldly bonds. All colors, that is all worldly bonds, dissolve in the bond with God represented by the white color. So what is the meaning of all colors dissolving in the bond with God. Here the meaning is, I gave the example of that devotee who loved God as the Father. So his bond had, let us say, the yellow color. That yellow color dissolved when he realized the greatness of God, when he realized that, when he had true realization of God's divinity, then that yellow color dissolved into the white color. White includes everything. So God is definitely like the Father, but he is much, much more. God is definitely like the mother, but he is much, much more. God is definitely the husband of souls, but he is much, much more than a worldly husband. So that is to say, so when the devotee realizes that God is really all encompassing as far as all the bonds are concerned, but he is even greater than all the bonds put together. So he is the sum of all the rainbow colors, but he is a new color, white. See, if you add all the colors of the spectrum, it becomes a new color, that is white. So God, the love towards God should have that characteristic. It is a new kind of color, that is white. Definitely white includes everything, but white is much greater than that, much greater than all the colors. So when all these, so that is why it is said all colors dissolve in the bond with God, which is represented by the white color. So now he does not love his father only, love God as only his father. Another devotee does not love God only as her husband. Definitely the functions of protecting the devotee, of caring for the devotee, which are found in the father relationship or in the husband relationship, they are there. God is certainly our husband. He maintains us, he nourishes us, he protects us. All those functions are still there. But the relation, our relation with God is not limited to the worldly relation that we have with a husband or with a father or with a mother. That is the point. So since God created all these worldly bonds, we can say that the white color splits into all colors, that is Vibgyor. God created this creation. In this creation, he created the father, created the mother, created the husband, created the wife, created the children. So all these worldly bonds represented by different colors are God's creation. They have come from him, which is to say that they have all emerged from white. But white is their source and much greater, much bigger, much more all encompassing compared to any of these colors. The resulting idea is that you need not destroy the worldly bonds, the Vibgyor. Instead, you can merely divert these bonds towards God to form a single bond with God, which is represented by the white color. So you need not destroy those worldly bonds. You turn them towards God. So in the initial stage, it is okay to say that since I love my father very much, I have great respect for my father. He has provided everything for me. He has sacrificed so much for myself, for raising me and educating me and all that. I have a very soft corner for my father. And I feel that God is like my big father. It's okay. There's no harm in saying that. With that idea, it will be very convenient for me to develop love towards God. As such, if that relation, if that similarity of my relationship with my father is not utilized, then I may not be able to develop love for God. But luckily, I already have very good feelings for my father. Why can't I use those feelings as a ladder to climb up to the stage where I develop an independent bond with God? So There is no need for me to break my relationship with my father. I can continue loving my father, but I develop a bond with God that is similar to my relationship with my father. Gradually, over time, as my knowledge about God goes on increasing, I will realize that, sometimes my father behaves in an unreasonable manner. In some rare situations, I found that he is not really very selfless. Sometimes he also behaves in a slightly odd manner. As the Veda says, Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. It appears, in most cases, it appears as if he loves me for my sake. But in some situations in my life, I have observed that he actually loves himself more than me. In fact, Shankaracharya doesn't sugarcoat it at all. Shankaracharya very openly says, Putra adapi dhana bhajam bhitihi. Uh, the father is afraid of giving his wealth even to his child. So sometimes we see such situations also. And the father does not want to, father has become old, the son is in need of some money. The father will not give his wealth even to his own son. He will say, no, no, once I die, then the money is anyway going to go to my son. Why should I give him right now? So sometimes we observe these things. So although I generally love my father, but as I become more mature, as I become more observant and analytical, I will notice that my father is also a limited human being, also a self-centered, limited human being. Whereas God is so great, so grand, that it is beyond my imagination. So that happens when I notice his divinity, when I realize that his divinity is far, far greater and bigger than any human relationship. When that situation happens, then I have established a separate new kind of relationship with God, which is the devotee-God relationship, the devotee-God bond. Now I don't see him anymore as merely my father. Because a parental relationship, parental love is good, but it is not the highest. The highest form of love is the relationship, the kind of love that God has towards us. Not the love that we have towards God. That is not the highest. That is usually impure. The love that God has towards us is the purest. That is the highest standard of love. So there is no need to destroy the bonds that you have in the world. You can just divert them towards God. And later on, when you realize that divinity, it will become its own independent bond. So in that, what happened is, this person's love for the Father, gradually that got absorbed in his bond with God. Now he does not separately love his Father independently. Meaning, he will respect his Father, but the heart is already given to God. He will he will do all that is necessary for his Father. He will speak very politely, speak very kindly. Whatever the father needs, even if the father has become old, he will serve the father as a duty. But the internal the heart is not there in that relationship. That love is not there in the relationship. Externally, no one will know. But internally, his heart has already been given to God. Such a state should happen in every relationship. Let's say a woman devotee loves God as her husband. Later on, she realizes that God is far greater than a husband, a human husband. Then she starts loving, she gives up that romantic color altogether. She realizes that this romance and sex and lust and that physical relationship which defines the husband-wife relationship uh, is, is of a very low quality compared to the greatness of God. Then she realizes, oh, my relationship with God should be the devotee-God relationship. It should be of the white color, not of the pink romantic color. When she realizes that, her romantic color, that pink color, gets absorbed in the white color. So the white color, that is the bond with God, results when all other colors are mixed homogeneously. All colors get absorbed in that bond. However, you cannot find any specific color, that is any worldly bond, existing separately in the white color, that is in the bond with God. Note that all this story about colors, all this story is about colors alone and not about colorlessness. This means that spiritual knowledge is about thoughts and feelings, and it is not about the thoughtless state, which is inert. So we started off loving God as the father or as the husband, in which case there is some color. And later on, our love matured and we started loving him, loving God as God. Considering ourselves to be devotees, we started loving God as God. That is, the color of the relationship changed from pink to white or yellow to white. In all such situations, ultimately, there was always some color. It is not that it was a colorless state. A colorless state would be a thoughtless state. What would be an example of a colorless kind of bond? The bond that you have with the stranger on the street. Stranger on the street, do you love him like your brother, like your father, mother, sister? No, you don't love that person at all. What is the relation with him? Colorless. You have no relation with that guy. So the colorless state is not what is implied. At every point, your relation with God has some color. Might be yellow, might be blue, might be green, might be pink. Finally, all those colors get absorbed into the white color. And the end result is that the color of your relationship with God becomes white. Our next question. What are the meanings of the words Thakur and Swami? A detailed question. Swami, what are the meanings of words Thakur and Swami? Where can we apply these words? I will take examples for my confusion. Shri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is addressed as Thakur Shri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and Swami Vivekananda has a prefix Swami Vivekananda. Then there is Swami Samartha, and of course, my most favorite, Datta Swami. There also Swami is there. There are so many examples where we come across this word Swami, but very rarely we use Thakur. So what are the meanings of these words? Swami replied, Thakur or Swami means the owner of this entire creation. And this word indicates only God. So whether you use the word Thakur or whether you use the word Swami, essentially it means the owner or the Lord. And in its highest sense, particularly in a spiritual context, the word Thakur or Swami is used to indicate the owner of this entire creation. So that word can only indicate God. The human incarnation of God is also indicated by these words, since God in the human incarnation, since the God in the human incarnation is the aim of these words. So when you call a human incarnation, when you address the human incarnation as Swami or as Thakur, that term used, be it Swami or Thakur, applies to the God who is present in the form of the incarnation. So we are not referring to the medium. What you see is the medium, but that medium has become identical with the Parabrahman. It is the Parabrahman who is the source of this creation. Parabrahman, or that the Saguna Brahma, who is the same Parabrahman dressed in an energetic medium, that is Lord Datta. That Lord Datta is the actual Thakur. Lord Datta is the actual Swami. When we say Thakur or Swami, we are pointing to Lord Datta, who is present in every incarnation. So that medium of Krishna, of Rama, of Sai Baba, they are not different from the Parabrahman. They are not different from Lord Datta. They are exactly identical due to perfect merging. So they should be treated as Brahman. They should not be treated as uh, creation. Even the medium of the incarnation is not to be treated as creation. From a scientific point of view, you may say that it is creation. From a logical, for philosophical analysis, okay, you can say that theoretically it is the medium, and then Parabrahman merged into that medium, or Lord Datta merged into the medium, and the energy of Lord Datta's medium merged with the energy in the human medium, and so on. Okay, that is for the sake of understanding. But finally, that entire merging process is already over. And what stands before you, the human incarnation that stands before you, is perfectly Parabrahman, is perfectly Lord Datta. There's no distinction between, that in the left hand there is Datta, in the right hand there is no Datta, in the nails there is no Datta. And it is not like that. It's fully Datta. So whenever we refer to the incarnation as Swami or Thakur, we are referring to him. We are acknowledging the fact that he is the owner of this creation. Next one. Do you think that male souls in Dushpravritti change if the illusory forms of the female preacher are created? A detailed question. Swami, you said that if the need arises, then God may create illusory forms of a female preacher for the sake of male devotees. So this is again in the context of Madhura Bhakti, where uh, Lord Krishna, or let's say any human incarnation in general, if he wants to uplift female devotees who are on the path of dushpravritti, who are lustful and who have crossed the boundaries of justice, if he wants to uplift them, he creates illusory forms of himself in which there is no Parabrahman, and he engages in some romantic activity with them, attracts them towards him, and then gradually uplifts them. This facility is available for female devotees who are on the path of dushpravritti. Now, if need be, it is not that this is a routine kind of procedure. This is not usually done. But if need be, God may create illusory forms of a female preacher for the sake of male devotees. Why? Because he is omnipotent. He can do it. Does it mean that he has to compulsorily do it? No. There is no compulsion on him. He may not do it. There are other ways to uplift those male souls. But let us assume that there is no other way to uplift those male souls, and this is the only way because of a certain situation, because of the nature of certain souls. He is very much capable of doing it. So he may create. So there is a female preacher. She is a guru. She is not an incarnation. She is a very good devotee of God. She preaches well. She is a very sincere devotee. She preaches well. She is good looking. Uh, and then there are some male devotees um, who are lustful, and they are attracted to her. So in order to uplift them, God can create illusory forms of this lady preacher to attract them, and then to later uplift them to pravritti. So Chandaji asks, but in this case, the female preacher is just a guru and she's not a sadguru. There is no God component already in the preacher. Then what is the meaning of creating even more of the same forms? The male soul in dushpravritti will not consider the created form as sadguru, even though he must treat his guru as sadguru. Do you think the male soul in dushpravritti will really change by this act? So what she is saying, at least in the case of Krishna creating his illusory forms, the original Krishna had Parabrahman present in him. The illusory forms did not have Parabrahman present in them. And if they romance with the Gopikas, there is no violation of God's celibacy. So that is the purpose why God created the illusory forms. Now, in this case of that female preacher, there is no God in her in any case. So what is the need of creating illusory forms of that lady? Even in the original lady, there is no God. In her duplicate copies also, there is no God. So why to create those duplicate forms and use those duplicate forms to uplift these male devotees? Do you think the male devotees who are in Dushpravritti will really change by this act? Swami replied, the female preacher is a guru, but is treated as a Sadguru or an incarnation of God by the followers. God preaches through this form of guru. So through her mouth, God is preaching to them. God can also do any further necessary activities through this form of guru. The female guru and her illusory forms do not contain the unimaginable God or Parabrahman. We should always remember that God has his own wonderful ways of resolving any problem in both worldly life and spiritual life. So he can use every necessary tool in order to uplift devotees. If those male devotees who are on Dushpravritti are deserving of upliftment, if they have the potential to be restored back to pravritti life, back to the path of justice, and if they have some potential to even rise above justice to the path of nivritti, God will do whatever is necessary. He is omnipotent. And moreover, he has sense of appropriateness. That is, in fact, one of his biggest powers. He knows exactly what to do and what is appropriate. Whether to make illusory forms of himself or of a lady preacher, or whether to uplift them by some other means, he knows what is the most appropriate. Whatever plan he proposes and executes to uplift any devotee is the optimal plan. An optimum means it is the best possible. There cannot be anything better than that. Whatever he has done is always the best. So he has his own wonderful ways of resolving any problem. Sometimes to make generalizations is actually, it diminishes the diversity and the richness of the various ways in which he can uplift human beings. Everything cannot be put in a box that he can only uplift people in this way or in that way or in a few other ways. Literally every case is unique. I think a couple of weeks ago, there was one verse in the Radha Krishna Gita where Swamiji was explaining how every patient has a unique set of health conditions. Someone has diabetes and blood pressure. Another patient has blood pressure but no diabetes, but has a heart problem. And, every person is so unique. So the doctor, a good doctor, has to analyze all those unique set of health conditions and then decide the appropriate means of treatment. Like that, God also does the same exercise of analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of every individual, the situation of every individual in their lives. What are the things that this person possesses? What are the challenges this person is facing? What are the mental strengths? What are the physical strengths of this person? What are the weaknesses? Based on that, he has his own way of resolving every problem. And in fact, we have experienced how we ourselves are patients having a very unique constitution. I say unique in a slightly sarcastic way because uniquely strange constitution that each of us has. And we remember perhaps how God has on so many occasions, he has uplifted us in such a skillful manner. So he can definitely resolve even this problem. Next question is, does pleasing God not lead to self-pleasure in the stage of liberation? So here she says, Swami, in step 3 of sweet devotion, that is the stage of liberation, in the discussion on Madhura Bhakti, the Madhura Bhakti was explained in 4 stages. And the third step was the step of liberation. It was discussed that there is no overlap between God's pleasure and the devotee's own pleasure. Pleasing God does not lead to self-pleasure. Instead, it leads to a net loss and becomes a sacrifice. My thinking for this stage is a little opposite to this. I think once the devotee has come to this stage, then pleasing God leads to self-pleasure alone, and it is not felt like a loss at all. Otherwise, it cannot be the liberation step. Please throw your light again to remove this ignorance. At your divine lotus feet, Chanda always. Swami replied, the word loss is used from the angle of the public and not from the angle of the devotee. While God is attracting the devotee present in the stage of unjust dushpravritti, God appears to like just injustice. It appears as if God is also in favor of injustice. A devotee who is at the lowest level of injustice has to be uplifted. So God comes to him, and he also appears to be a follower of injustice, like this fellow, whom he has to uplift. It is only when the devotee feels that God is also like me, that the devotee will develop a bond with God. If God appears to have like a spotless character, perfectly pure, then the devotee who is impure will never feel like making friends with God. It will never get attracted to God. If that devotee never develops any bond with God, God cannot uplift that person. So God initially behaves as if he also follows the path of injustice, that he also enjoys injustice. He behaves in that way. He appears to behave in that way, so that the devotee develops an attraction towards God. So this is the context of Madhura Bhakti. So if there is a woman devotee who is lustful and who has illegitimate affairs already, she would have to have illegitimate affairs if we are saying that she is on the path of dushpravritti. And let us say the human incarnation approaches her and he behaves as if he is an immaculate personality like Shankaracharya, who has absolutely no lustful feelings. If he behaves like that, this woman will not, she'll be afraid of him. She'll go away. She'll run away, because her nature and his nature are completely 180 degrees opposite. So if he has to uplift her, he should not behave like an immaculate saint. He should behave as if he is also interested in romantic relations. So when he behaves in that way, she will get attracted to him, and then he can uplift her. So while attracting a devotee present in the stage of unjust dushpravritti, God appears to like injustice. He appears as if he favors injustice. Therefore, the intentions of both God and the devotee appear to be the same. They appear to have an overlap. The unjust devotee is sincere in the intention, meaning the unjust devotee is actually has that intention. Okay, that unjust intention. She actually has an illegitimate romantic intention towards God. But from God's side, that is not his real intention. He's only pretending. She is actually behaving as she appears. She appears to be a lustful lady, and she actually is a lustful lady. There's no difference between her appearance and her reality. And in the case of God, he appears to be a lustful man, But he's not a lustful man. He's only pretending. So his real intention is quite different, and it is at a higher hidden plane. The devotee is initially attracted towards injustice, that is lustful behavior, but is finally forced to settle in the justice of pravritti due to the preaching of God. So she gets close to him, and then through his preaching, he converts her. He makes her realize the importance of following the rules of justice, the pravritti rules of justice. And he converts her from a follower of dushpravritti into a follower of pravritti. The love developed by the devotee towards God in the initial stage of injustice makes the devotee change from injustice to justice. In that initial stage, if God had not pretended to be like her, that bond would never form. The bond is not formed, no upliftment is possible. That conversion is not possible. Hence, the initial attraction is a white lie. It is an arthavada to develop love towards God that makes the devotee to be attracted to justice. First, she is attracted to him. Then she realizes that he loves justice and he never tolerates injustice. Then she looks at herself, oh, but my relationship is unjust. So I should give up this unjust feelings. I should be satisfied in pravritti because he likes it. If he is fond of justice, I am also fond of justice. From now, I am going to give up all unjust behavior. Now, that's how the transformation happens. So the initial romantic approach of God was a lie. It was a pretense. So using injustice as the initial attraction, the devotee is made to finally develop an attraction to justice. This happens because the devotee has first developed immense love for God through injustice, through a romantic attachment, through a romantic attraction. She started loving him. So we must remember here that the ends justify the means. The means seem to be wrong. But what is the end result? The end result is that he restored her to pravritti. That is a very noble task. So for the sake of that noble task, if the approach is apparently defective, it should be neglected. The ends justify the means. This is the transformation from dushpravritti to pravritti. It is mandatory for every soul. Now further, if the soul wants to be liberated from worldly bonds and merge with God, it requires the second transformation. What is the second transfer? What was the first transformation? From dushpravritti to pravritti. That is injustice to justice. But if you want liberation, the second transformation should also happen. What is that? From pravritti to nivritti. From justice to devotion. From justice to spirituality. The very purpose and aim of this second transformation is the soul serving God in his spiritual mission of propagating spiritual knowledge on the earth. If we look at the ultimate aim of the soul in this stage, it is to finally continue serving God even after liberation. So there is no place for selfish pleasure in this stage. The devotee feels that the pleasure of God itself is his or her selfish pleasure. So in the second transformation, you have to give up justice for the sake of God. In that, what you are expected to, what is the end result? Upon liberation, when you give up justice and all the worldly bonds, your bond with your husband, the bond with your children, all this comes under pravritti dharma. When you give up all those worldly bonds for the sake of God, you are liberated from them. Upon liberation, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to serve God. How will you serve God? You have to propagate his spiritual knowledge, his mission of propagating spiritual knowledge on earth. That is the job. Now, upon liberation, that service that you are going to do has no place for selfish pleasure. You are going to serve him. It is not about you getting something for yourself. You are not going to get anything. You are going to serve him. Your life is going to be of sacrifice. So there is no place for selfish pleasure. Then what gives pleasure to such a devotee? If he is pleased, the devotee, I am pleased. The devotee is not pleased when something good happens to himself or herself. The devotee is pleased when something good happens to God. So the mentality changes. If a devotee tries to take a shortcut by directly jumping from dushpravritti to nivritti, such a devotee will only aspire for selfish pleasure without caring for the pleasure of God. See, the person in dushpravritti has this hasty attitude that followers of dushpravritti, why do they go into dushpravritti? See, actually, if you are a self-centered person, if you belong to pravritti, you are self-centered, you want to enjoy. Let us say you want to enjoy sex. There is a certain way to enjoy that. God has said, you get married to one person and then you can enjoy sex. What is the problem? No, we are hasty. We want even more enjoyment. We want it immediately. Even before we get married, we want that enjoyment. So we have boyfriends and girlfriends. That hastiness, that over attachment to selfish enjoyment is what causes the person to go into pravritti. Having married, having a husband, having a wife, you're not satisfied with them. You want to have an illegitimate lover. You're not happy with the pleasure you're getting. You want even more pleasure. So this hasty attitude is what got you into dushpravritti in the first place. Now, when God gives you a solution that, okay, I can uplift you, I can take you all the way to nivritti, you please come, join me. When he gives you that offer, now you don't want to stop on the path. You don't want to go step by step. You don't want to first develop strength or develop develop a firm pravritti attitude. You want to directly jump to the highest. So that is a dangerous thing, because if you try to directly jump to nivritti, you will fail. Actually, you will utterly fail. What will end up happening is that selfish aspiration will not go. So your selfish aspirations, you will try to present as if they are meant for the pleasure of God. Actually, you're trying to fulfill your own selfish aspiration, but you will present to the world and to others, and even in front of God, you will say, I am doing it only for your sake, because your pleasure gives me pleasure. The reality is you want that pleasure. So human mind is very complicated. Only God can understand that. We cannot understand our own mind and how crookedly it works. So Swami is saying, therefore, there is no direct transformation of the devotee from dushpravritti to nivritti. The transformation from dushpravritti to pravritti increases the intensity of, decreases the intensity of the selfishness and fascination for worldly bonds. In dushpravritti, you completely run after illegitimate bonds, illegitimate enjoyment. In pravritti, you are expected to control them a little bit. You can still have selfish enjoyment, but you have to control it a little bit. That reduces your fascination, the effort that you make to control, that reduces your fascination. You are conquering that fascination 50% at least. Having conquered that 50%, you can then conquer it 100% when you go towards nivritti. But from dushpravritti, when you are 100% in the grip of these attractions, materialistic, sensual attractions, you cannot directly jump to nivritti. It is just not possible. So when the transformation from dushpravritti to pravritti decreases the intensity of the selfishness and fascination for worldly bonds, then the transformation from pravritti to nivritti will completely eradicate both dushpravritti and pravritti together, leading to pure nivritti. The intensified nivritti itself is called mahanivritti. What is mahanivritti? It is the same nivritti, but in the most intensified form, that is mahanivritti. The first transformation weakens the selfish fascination, while the second transformation completely eradicates selfish fascination. First transformation weakens and the second transformation eliminates. When you say that God's pleasure itself has become the devotee's selfish pleasure, it implies that the devotee has already passed through the intermediate stage of attaining the complete eradication of selfish pleasure. So let me understand that. When you say that God's pleasure itself has become the devotee's selfish pleasure, it implies that the devotee has, right. So the devotee has already passed through the intermediate state of pravrutti and then finally attained the complete eradication of selfish pleasure in the stage of nivritti. When selfishness disappears completely, the discussion about both justice and injustice also disappears spontaneously. Then the devotee has no personal likes and dislikes. In whatever way God is pleased, that becomes the selfish pleasure of the devotee. So that selfish pleasure, God's pleasure becoming our pleasure, that happens when you have passed through the middle stage of pravritti. And in that, when you finally reach that stage, you have dropped both justice and injustice. You have no personal likes and dislikes. And then his pleasure alone becomes your pleasure. That is the ultimate stage. At this ultimate stage, even the word justice drops by itself. Selfish pleasure, unlimited by justice, is dushpravritti. You want selfish pleasure, you don't even want the limits of justice, the constraints of justice. So, selfish pleasure, unlimited by justice, is dushpravritti. Selfish pleasure, limited by justice, is pravritti. If the word self is replaced by the word God in the word self-pleasure, in self-pleasure, you replace self with God, then it becomes God pleasure. That is nivritti. Nivritti is God-centered life. And nivritti is God pleasure, not self-pleasure. It means that the pleasure of God alone becomes the self-pleasure of the devotee. So let's pause at this point. Sorry, it took a little long, but I wanted to maintain continuity. Thank you, Swamiji. Pada Namaskaram, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Swamiji, are there any
Namaskaram,
mistakes in this, Swami?
Namaste.
Because it was a little complicated. Okay, Swamiji. Pada Namaskaram.
Namaste.
I am just sharing the document. Just 1 minute. Okay, these are all a set of series of questions by Srimati Chanda. These are all March 21st, 2026. And the first question is, if pravritti is full of selfishness, then how can there be justice? The detailed question is, Pada Namaskaram to my Almighty. I request you to kindly enlighten me on the following doubts. In one of our regular Satsangas, you told pravritti is full of selfishness. Most of the time, we experience this. We also learnt from your knowledge that pravritti is the justified life, meaning justice has to be followed among the souls. If it is full of selfishness, then how can there be justice? At the same time, God likes this justice very much, and He comes to establish this only in this world. These statements seem to contradict. Limits need to be clarified in all these, is it not? So Swami replied, selfishness and justice can coexist, provided the selfishness is within certain permitted limits of justice. Dushpravritti means earning wealth through unjust ways, even though God always grants to every soul the necessary wealth to meet the basic needs. Dushpravritti also includes illegal sexual life before and after marriage. Pravritti means earning money in justified way for the sake of expenses of oneself and one's family. Pravritti includes confining to the legally wedded spouse for satisfying lust. Although pravritti is also full of selfishness, justice is not violated anywhere at any time. Oh, excellent point here. Justice shall be violated only if God competes with it in the context of testing the devotee and not whenever the devotee desires such context. Oh, this is very excellent point here. I'll just repeat. Justice shall be violated only if God competes with it in the context of testing the devotee and not whenever the devotee desires such context. So that ends that wonderful answer. The next question is also by her. Are angels who follow justice selfish? The detailed question is, angels also always do and teach the right things. They are also perfect in pravritti. Then can I say that they are also selfish? At the same time, you always say angels never err means mistake. How is this statement possible? Only God can never err, is it not? And angels definitely are not God, and they are bound to err. We have plenty of such stories. Please clear this confusion too. Swami replied, compared to human beings, it is said that angels do not err. It is only comparison. It is only in a relative sense. In the absolute sense, only God will never err. Oh, excellent. The next question. How can devotion become free of the color of any worldly bond? The detailed question is, the color of the bond with God is white, not any color of the spectrum, VGR. White is nothing but a mixture of other colors. But you are saying that there is no separate existence of individual color. It is a wonderful concept. In my view, once the white color has come into a devotee's life, only then will the Vibgr cease to exist. But it can never be in any colorless state. Is it not? Please comment. Can I say that science fails to explain the life of such devotees? Swami replied, the love towards God, that is white color, is also a bond, that is color. The absence of love, that is colorlessness, is not a bond, that is color. The different colors of the spectrum, that is VGR, represent different worldly bonds. All colors, all worldly bonds dissolve in the bond with God represented by the white color. Since God created all these worldly bonds, we can say that white color splits into all colors, that is VGR. The resulting idea is that you need not destroy the worldly bonds, that VGR. Instead, you can merely divert these worldly bonds towards God to form a single bond with God, that is white color. The white color, that is bond with God, results when all other colors are mixed homogeneously. Whenever you cannot find any color, that is any worldly bond, existing separately in the white color, that is the bond with God. Note that all this story is about colors alone and not about colorlessness. This means that spiritual knowledge is about thoughts and feelings and not about the thoughtless state, which is inert. And her next question, what are the meanings of the words Thakur and Swami? Detailed question. Swami, what are the meanings of the words Thakur and Swami? Where can we apply these words? I will take examples for my confusion. Thakur Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Samarth, and of course, my most favorite Datta Swami, etc. There are so many examples where we come across with this word Swami, but very rarely we use Thakur. Swami replied, Thakur or Swami means the owner of this entire creation. And this word indicates only God. The human incarnation of God is also indicated by these words, since God in the human incarnation is the aim of these words. Since God in the human incarnation is the aim of these words. And the next question, do you think that male souls in Dushpravritti change if the illusory forms of the female preacher are created? Detailed question. Swami, you said that if the need arises, then God may create illusory forms of a female preacher for the male devotees. But in this case, the female preacher is just a guru and not a Sadguru. There is no God component already there in the preacher. Then what is the meaning of creating even more of the same forms? The male soul in Dushpravritti will not consider the created form as Sadguru, even though he must treat his Guru as Sadguru. Do you think the male soul in Dushpravritti will really change by this act? Swami replied, the female preacher is a Guru, but is treated as Sadguru or incarnation of God by the followers. God preaches through this form of Guru. God can also do any further necessary activities through this form of Guru. The female Guru and her illusory forms do not contain the unimaginable God or Parabrahman. We should always remember that God has his own wonderful ways of resolving any problem in both worldly life and spiritual life. And the next question. And the next question is, does pleasing God not lead to self-pleasure in the stage of liberation? The detailed question is, Swami, in step 3 of sweet devotion, that is, in the liberation stage, it was discussed that there is no overlap between God's pleasure and devotees' own pleasure. Pleasing God does not lead to self-pleasure. Instead, it leads to a net loss and becomes a sacrifice. My thinking for this stage is little opposite to this. I think once the devotee has come to this stage, then pleasing him leads to self-pressure alone, and it is not a loss at all. Otherwise, it cannot be in the liberation step. Please throw your light again to remove this ignorance. At your divine lotus feet, Chanda always. Swami replied, the word loss is used from the angle of public and not from the angle of the devotee. It's an excellent point here. While God is attracting a devotee present in the stage of unjust dushpravritti, God appears to like injustice. Therefore, the intentions of both God and the devotee appear to be same, having an overlap. The unjust devotee is sincere in the intention, but the real intention of God is quite different, which is at a higher hidden plane. The devotee is initially attracted towards injustice, but is finally forced to settle in the justice of pravritti due to the preaching of God. The love developed by the devotee towards God in the initial stage of injustice makes the devotee change from injustice to justice. Hence, The initial attraction is a white lie, that is Arthavada. To develop love towards God that makes the devotee to be attracted to justice. We can understand this more clearly if we concentrate on the complexity of the concept. Using injustice as the initial attraction, the devotee is made to finally develop an attraction to justice. This happens because the devotee has first developed immense love for God through injustice. We must remember here that the ends justify the means. This is the transformation from dushpravritti to pravritti. It is mandatory for every soul. Oh, it's 7:30 here. I will stop for Bhakti Ganga and I will repeat it in the next Satsanga. Namaskaram, Swami.
స్వామి మీ పాదపద్మాలకు నమస్కారం స్వామి. కాళకరాళ శూలం కామితార్థం కల్పయేన్నః ప్రళయకాల భయానకోగ్రం విద్యుదగ్ని వివర్షణాగ్రం కాళకరాళశూలం కామితార్థం కల్పయేన్నః రాక్షసాధమభస్మశేషం రావణస్తవ వక్త్రఘోషం మన్మథాకృతిదాహరోషం త్రివిధ కర్మ ఫలాగ్రవేశం కాళకరాళశూలం కామితార్థం కల్పయేన్నః దత్తసేవకశత్రునాశం ఖండితాత్మా ప్రతిఫలాసం పాతితాంతక జగదధీశం ధూతభీకర కాలపాసం కాళకరాళశూలం కామితార్థం కల్పయేన్నః విద్యుదుజ్వలదగ్నిజాలం కౌరవాణాం మరణలోలం పార్థదృశ్యం గరళనీలం వ్యాసబోధాద్విదితలీలం కాళకరాళశూలం కామితార్థం కల్పయేన్నః ప్రళయకాల భయానకోగ్రం విద్యుదగ్ని వివర్షణాగ్రం కాళకరాళశూలం కాళకరాళశూలం కాళకరాళశూలం. ధన్యవాదాలు స్వామి.
తత్సవితుస్తా దేవతాయాః వరేణ్యభర్గో ధీమహి ప్రచోదయేద్వై ధియో యో నః తం బ్రహ్మాణం జ్ఞానసూర్యం భజ భజ దత్తం భజ భజ దత్తం భజ భజ దత్తం భజ భజ దత్తం ప్రాణే ప్రసవాత్ యః ప్రసిద్ధః సవితేత్యస్య బ్రహ్మతేజః శిష్యధియశ్చ ప్రేరయేన్నః तङ्गायत्री मन्त्रसारं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं गायत्रीयं छन्द एव सविता देवः स्मर्यते च शिष्यान्धकार मुकुलिताब्जा जीविका सदं गुरुवरेण्यं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं कर्ता भर्ता ह्येषहर्ता सर्वस्यास्य श्रूयते हि त्रिमूर्तिरूपं ब्रह्म चैकं ब्रह्माकारं ब्रह्मवाचं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं त्रिपदं छन्दः त्रिस्वरोक्तं त्रिकालवन्द्यं त्रिगुणसूत्रं त्रिवाहिनीनां सङ्गमं वा त्रिमूर्तितत्त्वं यं यनक्ति भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं ओङ्कारश्च त्रिविधवर्णः त्रिस्रो व्याहृत योऽपि यं हि सम्बोधयन्ति सर्वमन्त्रो यमेव वक्ति त्रिगुणमेकं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं चत्वारोऽयं वेदशुनकाः गौरनुसरति च वेदधर्मः वीणाश्रवणं वाणीपतिं षोडशवर्षं ब्रह्मदेवं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं जगदारम्भं हंसवाहं तेजोवदनं मन्त्रमूलं गायत्रीशं सामगानं विद्यानिलयं वेदपाठं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं यज्ञाचरणं होमनिष्ठं कमण्डलुधरं दर्भपाणिम् अग्निज्वाला भासमानं प्रातः सन्ध्या बालभानुं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं चन्दनतिलके कुङ्कुमाङ्कं ब्रह्मतेजसा दीप्यमानं जगन्मोहन सुन्दराङ्गं आशायधरं पंडितेशं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं अत्रेः पुत्रं ब्रह्मदत्तं अनसूयाम्बा प्रेमराशिम् अजनमेखलं ब्रह्मदण्डं यज्ञोपवीता मक्षमालं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं स्वतनोरुद्यत् कमलगन्धैः त्रिभुवनानि ह्लादयन्तं ब्रह्ममुहूर्ते साधकानां प्रचोदयेत्ता धियो यो नः भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं सृष्टिक्रमवद पुरुषसूक्तं त्रिस्वरबद्धं पावनार्थं ऋषिभिः पठितं ब्रह्मकाले श्रुत्वा श्रुत्वा प्रीयमाणं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं त्रिमताचार्यैः पठ्यमानान् तत्तन्मतमय भाष्यवादान् श्रुत्वा सिद्धान्तार्थमन्त्यं समन्वयमतं वाचयन्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तं भज भज दत्तम् वेदान्तानामान्तिमार्थम् वेदान्तार्थम् बोधयन्तम् ऋषिभिः परितो भाषमाणम् शास्त्रार्थेषु व्यञ्जितेषु भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् आयुधवर्जित पाणिपद्मम् वाचैवारिम् मारयन्तम् कर्मफलानि ललाटपत्रे लिखन्तमायो दायदानम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् आचार्येन्द्रम् वाक्प्रचारम् भुवि सञ्चारम् निर्विचारम् खलाभिचारम् सदाचारम् सुरपरिचारम् चित्तचोरम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् पद्मसम्भवम् पद्मपीठम् पद्मसुगन्धम् पद्मवर्णम् पद्मापुत्रम् पद्मनेत्रम् पद्मसुपाणिम् पद्मपादम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् वीणापाणिः यस्य शिष्या वाणी गायति ज्ञानदेवी तं वागीशम् सामवाचा चरशोणाधर मन्त्रपाठम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् यत्सङ्कल्पः केवलं हि सर्वं विश्वं रचितमेवम् आद्यं देवं प्रथममूर्तिम् आराधनीया मजमनादिम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् ललाटरेखाम् कर्मबद्धाम् परिमार्ष्टुं यः केवलो हि सर्वसमर्थो लेखकोऽयम् धातारं तं मूलमूलम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् चतुराम्नायां चतुरवाचा चतुरास्याब्जै रुद्गिरन्तम् कविं कवीनाम् आदिकाव्यम् सर्वजगदिदम् विरचयन्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् परमब्रह्म ब्रह्म शब्दो यस्मिन्नेव प्रकृतिहेतौ पूजातीतम् परमपूज्यम् दिवसारम्भे पूजनीयम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् गायत्र्याद्या यस्य भार्याः त्रिशक्तयस्ताः त्रिमुखपद्मम् देवपितॄणाम् पितरमेव पितामहाख्यम् ब्रह्मरूपम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् श्रीदत्त ब्रह्म गायत्रीम् योगायेत् ब्रह्मकालिकीम् सब्रह्म तेजसा दीप्तो ज्ञानी ब्रह्मत्वमश्नुते शतायुर्दायमाप्नोति सर्वविद्याः प्रपद्यते सत्पुत्रं लभते होमात् ऐश्वर्यं ब्रह्मवीक्षितः भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम् भज भज दत्तम्
वेंकटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां वेंकटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम् ऊर्ध्वपुण्ड्रविलक्षणाङ्कित फलदेशसमुज्ज्वलं सप्तशैलविभूषणं नव नीलमेघसमप्रभं वामपार्श्वविलम्बिमौक्तिकदामचारुकिरीटिनं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। हंसयोरुपरिस्फुरद्युति शङ्खचक्रसुलक्षितं चक्रवाकसमाकृतिस्फुट कर्णभूषणशोभितं स्वर्णवर्णधगद्धगद्युति नूतनाम्बरविभ्रमं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। चित्रपुष्पसरोल्लसत्तुलसीदळात्मकमालिकं वज्रमौक्तिकधामसम्भृत चित्रचित्रविभूषणं शोणपद्मविशेषहार परिष्कृतामलकन्धरं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। शूतपल्लवकोमलाधर नर्तितस्मितसुन्दरं चन्दनाङ्कसमुल्लसच्युबुकान्तकान्तिविलक्षणम् उल्लसत्तिलपुष्पसंमित चरुनासमनोहरं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। धौतदीधितिमीनयुग्म कलालसत्तललोचनं कामचापयुगभ्रुवोरति सुन्दराकृतिभासुरं वामपाणिविलोलसौरभ वर्षिकोमलवारिजं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। दक्षिणादिगुणालयं शुभ सर्वसद्गुणसागरं पापकूपनिमग्नजीव समुद्धरं धरणीधवम् अङ्गुलीयकवज्रदीधिति पाणिनाभयदायकं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। उज्ज्वलाङ्गसुदर्शनाभिध चक्रखण्डितराक्षसं सर्वमङ्गलदेवता रमयालसद्गुरुवक्षसं शङ्खचक्रगदाशिशार्ङ्ग समाख्यपञ्चसमायुधं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्। यः पठेदिदमद्भुतं स्तव मुत्तमोत्तममागमं सर्वकष्टविमुक्तिमेति सकृत्सुखं लभते नरः क्षीरसागरशायिनं परमाप्नुयात् परपूरुषं वेङ्कटेश्वरमाश्रये मम किं करिष्यति वै कलिः। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 पाहि मां। वेङ्कटेश्वर 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 रक्ष माम्।
शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य फाललोचनं तव हि मे सुदर्शनं शूलमेव ते तिलकमोत्फपुण्ड्रकम् नीलकण्ठते भाति कण्ठनीलिम विस्तरान्महो मम हि देहनीलिम शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य फालचक्षुषा दग्धपद्मसायकं सादराक्षिणा दृष्टपद्मसम्भवं प्रेमवीक्षणा लोलपद्मलोचनं त्वां त्रिलोचनं देवसंस्मराम्यहं शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य नटनपण्डिता स्फुरति रम्यताण्डवं चित्रमण्डलं भ्रमणलोलकुण्डलं पुरगमण्डन स्खलितधर्मदण्डनं धनुजखण्डनं विजितभारतीभण्डनं शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य शङ्कराय ते लोकशङ्कराय ते वन्दनानि मे देववासुदेवस्य
అన్నపూర్ణతో ఆసీనుడైన ఆదిదేవుడా ఆలకించవా నన్నేలుమింకా నారాయణ ప్రియ నాకెవరు దిక్కు నాగేంద్రహార వారణాసిలో విశాలాక్షితో వేదపీఠమున వెలిగేటి దేవా జీవభక్తులకు మాయల ముడులను తల్లి విప్పగా మోక్షమిచ్చదవు గంగలో మునుగా ముక్తులయ్యేరు బ్రహ్మజ్ఞానమే గంగా నదియన జలముల మునిగడి పశువుల జూచెడి మందస్మితముఖ పశుపతినాథ జ్ఞానమే తేజము కాశీ అర్థమదే జ్ఞాన ప్రాప్తియ కాశీ గమనము భక్త్యావేశమే గంగా స్నానము పరమార్థదత్త పరమేశవేశ సర్వ పాపహర ఈ భక్తి గంగా నీ కరుణ హిమమే ప్రవహించనదిగా అంతరార్థమున పశుపతిని పొందు బాహ్యార్థమైన పశుజన్మ పొందు అన్నపూర్ణతో ఆసీనుడైన ఆదిదేవుడా ఆలకించవ నన్నేలుమింకా నారాయణ ప్రియ నాకెవరు దిక్కు నాగేంద్రహార
అస్తమిస్తున్న పొద్దు మీద సమీపిస్తున్న కాలమా సడలుచున్న దివ్య భక్తి పాశమా దూరమవుతున్న దత్త దైవమా జన్మ జన్మల మా ప్రాణమా అస్తమిస్తున్న బల 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 హ హ హ అస్తమిస్తున్న పొద్దు మీద సమీపిస్తున్న కాలమా సడలుచున్న దివ్య భక్తి పాశమా దూరమవుతున్న దత్త దైవమా జన్మ జన్మల మా ప్రాణమా బల 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 హ హ హ దత్తదేవా భార్యా పిల్లల మీద వ్యామోహముతో 10 తరాలకు సరిపడు ఆస్తులు ఉన్నా ఇంకా ఇంకా అన్యాయాలు చేస్తూ ఆ అన్యాయాల శిక్షలు పడకుండా దేవుడు రక్షించాలనే ఉద్దేశము మనసులో దాచుకొని పైకి ఎంతో భక్తి ఉన్నట్లు నటించే దొంగ భక్తులతో నిన్ను బుట్టలో వేసుకోవాలనే మోసాన్ని సర్వజ్ఞుడవైన నీవు తెలుసుకొని మానవులకు వారి కర్మఫలాల శిక్షలను వారికే ఇస్తున్నావు. దత్తప్రభు, నీకు వందనం, వందనం, వందనం. స్వార్థాన్ని మనసులో దాచి ఉంచి బయటకు కురిపిస్తున్న భక్తి నటనమా, మీ కర్మఫలాలు మీరే పొందండని తిరగబడ్డ దత్త దైవమా, మానవ జాతి మీద నీ కోపమా, మోసపు భక్తికి దక్కిన శాపమా. బల 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 హ హ హ. అస్తమిస్తున్న బల 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 హ హ హ. అస్తమిస్తున్న పొద్దు మీద సమీపిస్తున్న కాలమా, సడలుచున్న దివ్య భక్తి పాశమా, దూరమవుతున్న దత్త దైవమా, జన్మ జన్మల మా ప్రాణమా. బల 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 హ హ హ. దత్తదేవా, మానవుల దొంగ భక్తికి అమాయకముగా బుట్టలో పడ్డట్లు నీవు నటించి వారి స్వార్థపు కోరికలను ఒకవైపు నెరవేరుస్తూ మరోవైపు వారికి తెలియకుండానే వారి పాపాల శిక్షలను అనుభవించే కాలాన్ని పొడిగిస్తూ ఆ పొడిగించిన కాలానికి పెచ్చు వడ్డీలను వేసి ఆ వడ్డీలను కూడా వారు అనుభవించేట్లు చేస్తున్నావే, నీ మేధాశక్తి ముందు మానవుల దొంగ తెలువులు నిలవగలవా? దత్తప్రభు, నీకు వందనం, వందనం, వందనం. కర్మఫలాలను పొడిగించి వడ్డీ కట్టించు తిరుగు మోసమా, మాయలోబడి వరమునిచ్చినట్లు నటించు దత్తమాయ వేషమా, సత్యభక్తికి లొంగు ప్రేమ పాశమా, నిజమైన భక్తులకు చేయు దాస్యమా, కోరిక లేని భక్తులపైనున్న మోహమా. బల 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 హ హ హ. అస్తమిస్తున్న బల 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 హ హ హ. అస్తమిస్తున్న పొద్దు మీద సమీపిస్తున్న కాలమా, సడలుచున్న దివ్య భక్తి పాశమా, దూరమవుతున్న దత్త దైవమా, జన్మ జన్మల మా ప్రాణమా. బల 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 హ హ హ.
धरती पर भक्तों के तुम हो उद्धारक, भक्तों के कष्टों के तुम हो निवारक, जीवों के भरता तुम ही हो मेरे पालक, जगत दत्ता जय जय प्रभु दत्ता त्रैमूर्त्यवतारी साक्षात् परब्रह्म श्री दत्ता स्वामी मनमोहक अति सुंदर अत्यंत प्यारी आनंदाई स्वामी छवि तुम्हारी दर्शन मात्रे तृप्त आत्मा हमारी दृष्टि स्वामी की है चमत्कारी गुरु दत्ता श्री दत्ता जय जय प्रभु दत्ता त्रैमूर्त्यवतारी साक्षात् परब्रह्म श्री दत्ता स्वामी परिपूर्णतम साक्षात् परब्रह्म स्वामी वेदों से परिवेद सार है स्वामी अनूह्य अवतारी अचिंत्य स्वामी मनुष्य अवतारी परब्रह्म स्वामी गुरु दत्ता श्री दत्ता जय जय प्रभु दत्ता त्रैमूर्त्यवतारी साक्षात् परब्रह्म श्री दत्ता स्वामी कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रिये वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् भक्त्यानन्या श्रीदत्त स्वामिने समर्पयामि श्रीदत्त स्वामिने समर्पयामि श्रीदत्त स्वामिने समर्पयामि
उद्वेगरहिता संतोषरहिता शांति समुद्रा श्री दत्ता शांति समुद्रा श्री दत्ता शांति समुद्रा श्री दत्ता ओम शांति शांति शांति
Namaskaram, Swami.
Father, namaskaram, Swami.
नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी जी
नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद
Namaskaram, Swami.
नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी जी
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार
स्वामी
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार
नमस्ते
नमस्कार
नमस्ते नमस्ते
स्वामी
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार स्वामी जी
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
पाद
नमस्ते
नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार
नमस्ते नमस्ते
नमस्कारम स्वामी
नमस्ते
नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कारम स्वामी जी
नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते
पाद नमस्कार स्वामी
नमस्ते
Is anyone left to offer pranams to Swami?
स्वामी जी पाद नमस्कारम
पाद नमस्कार
नमस्ते नमस्ते
Pada Namaskaram Swami.
नमस्ते